Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how to do the first component to our chicken dish. It's going to be mashed potatoes, or pommes puree, what the French term for it. So what we're going to use is a russet. You could use any type of potato. You could use a Yukon Gold potato. It's my favorite, but russet potato in this case will work fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to peel it. Always go with it when you're using a peeler, always go away from your body so you don't have to worry about cutting yourself. Try to get as much of the skin off. We don't want any of the skin inside of it. Okay, that's good. And then we're gonna cut into equal sizes because we want it all to cook evenly. So I'm gonna go halfway. Then I'm going to go half of that, and then I'm just going to go somewhat big chunks here. So it's all roughly the same size. Okay. Then I'm going to put a garlic clove in there. So I'm just going to trim this part out, then smash it, throw it in there, and then I'm going to put cold water. Just to barely cover the potatoes. And once that's going, medium-high heat, slow simmer, until the potatoes are fork tender, until you can basically break a potato with a fork without any sort of pressure. That's when you want to take them out, and then we'll do the next step there. To make our mashed potatoes, we need to use a food mill. I like to use the finest one because I don't like lumpiness. This is the fine grate, so we're just going to flip it over. If you notice, this uplift part goes upwards, and then it fits perfectly there. This is the part that circulates to kind of pass the food through. Just put that down, and then you see the spring, you push this down like this. And then there you go. And then this goes this way. So we're going to take a look at our mashed potatoes, and as we see, they break off easily without much resistance. So then we know they're ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to drain them. And we don't want water. So we're just going to pour these back in here in this pan that's hot, and kind of let that steam evaporate all that water. So what I like to do is I like to put this back on the stove for another 30 seconds. Potatoes, we have to make sure we do this while they're hot. We can't let these cool down. So we're gonna pour these in our food mill, and then we're gonna go our food mill back on top of our pot. And we're just gonna stir this. We're gonna make sure we get as much of the potatoes in here. Our garlic's in there still, so that's gonna get grinded into the I don't know if you guys can smell that, but it smells like garlic. Gives a nice scent to it. Okay. So once we're here, this is where we want to season. I don't like to use pepper when we're using a white mashed potatoes because we don't want to see that. We use white pepper, but I don't have white pepper in this case. So we want to make sure we add a good amount of salt. But always remember, you can always add more at the end. So go a little bit less than what you think, and then go a little bit more, less than what you think, and then add as you go, as you taste. Right here we have equal parts butter, milk, and cream, which is part of the recipe. And then we're gonna slowly pour this, about half of what we think we need, and we're gonna slowly incorporate this with a spatula. Remember, potatoes, I like my potatoes a little bit more on like a thicker sauce style. So I'm gonna go a little bit more cream and butter here. Always remember, we can add, but we can't take away. So if I added too much cream, there's no fixing it unless I add more cooked potatoes, which I don't have. So there's no fixing that. So at this stage, I'm gonna give it a taste. So as I tasted, I get good salt, but I think it needs a little bit more salt, just a tad bit. All right, and this can sit now, it's ready. We can sit this on top of the stove that's off, so it can stay warm while we get the rest of the components ready. Okay, so the next part of the dish is the chicken. We have an airline breast, and just a reminder, the airline is basically the chicken breast, the drumette still attached, and skin on. So that's what we have here, and we're gonna get our pan getting hot. Okay, we wanna make sure you put it in when the oil, the pan is really hot. So season from above, not down here so it doesn't concentrate. So we want to make sure we get an even coating from up here. And make sure you season both sides. So we want to have a good even coating. Alright, then we're going to come over here. I don't know if you want to show it. So we're going to make sure we got a pan that's hot, and we're going to just, this is more of a pan fry, so we want to make sure we coat the bottom of the pan. And we're going to wait till we see some oil. We want to make sure we get a nice sizzle. So there's going to be a technique that when we put the chicken in, we want to make sure we don't have the oil splattering at us, right? So the way we put the chicken down is very important. One, we want to put the presentation side down. So in this case, it's going to be the skin side down, right? And then the second thing is we don't want any of this oil to splatter towards us. A lot of people drop it and kind of stand back, and then that's when fires happen. So we want to tilt this away from the flame. Tilt it forward. And then that way there's no oil splatter. You don't want to move it, you don't want to shake it, you don't want to do much to it, just kind of let it go. Let that skin get crispy. Always remember, assume that this is hot. So when you're assuming everything in the stove is hot, you use a side towel to grab all your equipment. When using a non-stick pan, be careful not to touch metal with the pan. So you gotta be very cautious about that. Take a look. It still needs a little bit more. So I would go a little bit more than that. That's good right there. I like to baste a little bit. I'm gonna put garlic and a knob of butter on top, and this by itself is gonna go straight into the oven. So that's gonna cook until it's ready. So we're gonna check it in about 8 to 10 minutes. If it's firm, we're gonna pull it out. All right, so we're gonna take a look at our chicken. Again, it's in the oven, so it's hot. I'll take a look here. I can feel it, it's still kind of not bouncing back, kind of rubbery still, so it still needs more time. Give it a little rotation, and then we're gonna keep firing that off. So we're gonna get the chicken, we're gonna take another look at our chicken. And now I'm pressing, it's a lot more firmer. Our chicken's done. But we don't wanna leave it in the same pan. So what we're gonna do, is we're gonna come over here, and we're just gonna let it rest. And we're gonna put a little bit of this basting butter on it to kind of marinate. And we're gonna leave a little bit of fat in there. This is more towards the end, but I'll show you how to prep the asparagus. So this is how we're gonna prep the asparagus. In order for us to have a nice bite of asparagus, it's very fibrous. So these ends get really chewy, and a lot of fiber breaking it down is not easy for us. So we tend to take that out. One way they do it is wherever it snaps is a good point to know when the fibers kind of stop. But we want consistency and we want nice presentation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come around here in the middle and kind of just give it a cut. Line them all up so they're all equal. So I have 5 equal pieces. This you can save to make some stock, vegetable stock or something of that matter. And over here I have a big pot. And this pot is basically just water, and we want to make sure it's boiling, hard boiled. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a lot of salt. We want it to taste like ocean water, so we got to make sure we have lots of salt in there. That's going to help, one, keep the temperature of the water higher, and number 2, it's going to kind of season our asparagus. So right when we get closer to the end of the dish, we want to fire these off. We don't want to fire these off too early. This is going to be one of the last things we do, so we're going to kind of hold off on these. But that's how you want to mise en place for it. You want to make sure you prep it out, have everything ready. I have my boiling water and I have my asparagus. So what we're going to do now is we're going to mise en place for our sauce. Our sauce is going to be a pan sauce. So we're going to make the sauce inside the same pan that we cooked the chicken. But the chicken's in the oven, so we got to make sure we stay busy. So what we do is we're going to get our mise en place for that. So we're going to cut an onion down. Very light. You could use shallots. I prefer shallots, but in this case we're just going to use onion. So very light. I'm just gonna, and we want to make sure we get a very, very small mince, like a brunoise, smaller than a brunoise, fine brunoise. So we're gonna go fine. very fine. We don't want to eat big chunks of onion when we're doing a little pan sauce. And then the same thing we're going to do with garlic. So 2 cloves of, we can actually do 1 clove. We don't want to use this end, so we're going to cut that off. And one way I like to mince garlic if I'm going to mince it is press down on it, break it apart, and that kind of helps you flatten it out. And then you kind of just run your knife like if it was onions. So just go that way, turn it around. That's your garlic. So this is basically going to be for our pan sauce. One more thing we want to do for our pan sauce is add some fresh thyme. So again, we're just going to pick the leaves. We don't want the stems. So get these leaves. And we don't need a lot. Remember, thyme is very strong. So that should be good, maybe a little bit more. Alright, and just really quick run your knife through it. Alright. So we're going to do our pan sauce. This is the same pan we cooked our chicken in. This is still hot. Use a towel. Right? We're going to make sure this gets hot a little bit, and we're going to throw in our onions and our garlic. And we're just going to give this a quick saute, a quick sweat inside those juices, the same juices that were the chicken and all that flavor is coming out. We see all those little black spots. That's called fond. That fond is going to add some great flavor to our dish. We want to cook these a little bit, so we want to keep stirring this. We don't want the heat to be too high where it's going to burn the garlic and make it bitter, or the onion. But we're going to add some good flavor here. Alright, so we're there. We got a good, nice color. We're going to add some white wine, but make sure when you add the white wine, you're away from the flame. This is cooking wine. We're just going to coat the bottom of the pan. So once it's there, we're going to let this reduce by half. So once we see half of it evaporate, we're going to go with our chicken stock. So it's going to evaporate quickly, right? We have a lot of surface area. We see a lot of bubbles. So that's good. We're going to keep stirring this. And I don't know if you can tell, but we're starting to get reduction. So that cooking wine's evaporating and leaving a little bit of that acidic flavor to it. Okay, so look how much we got left over. So we still a little bit more. So once we're there, we're going to add about 2 ounces of chicken stock to our dish. And we're going to let that evaporate. While that's going and my mashed potatoes were sitting, my palm puree, I'm gonna bring these up to temperature, really low heat and constantly stirring. They're gonna get dried out. So at that stage, if I need to, I can add a little bit more butter and cream to make sure we rehydrate those and they go back to that consistency that we're looking for. Okay. Okay, this is is perfect. So now I'm gonna turn off the pan. This sauce is not done. I would say it's about 80% of the way there. We have some liquid, we're good. Now we're gonna add some cold butter. And when we add some cold butter, we're just gonna stir it with the pan being off. And we're gonna create what's called an emulsification. That butter is slowly melting, but combining with the fat from the butter is combining with the liquid is creating a pan sauce. So stirring it with your hands. You don't want to whisk it because it's a non-stick pan. You want to create an emulsification. The residual heat from the pan will make that emulsification. Once we're there, we just add our fresh thyme, and that fresh thyme with that heat, that's residual heat, is going to permeate through there, and it's going to give it a nice fragrance. Same thing, we're going to give it a taste. Very nice. I think it needs a little bit of that. Just a little bit, just to give it a little spiciness to it. Alright, so we have our mashed potatoes, we have our sauce, and we have our chicken. So we got to finish up our asparagus. Our asparagus, our water is boiling. We have a hard boil, which is what we want. The most important thing when we do a boiling, we want to make sure we have enough water to coat all the asparagus, and that when we put the asparagus in, it stays boiling. So that's the most important. So we're going to put our asparagus in, and we're going to put the lid on it. We're going to let it cook for about 30 to 40 seconds. Okay? So we're going to, when our asparagus is cooking, how do we know it's ready? One thing I like to do is I like to grab one, and then I can kind of see this is perfect. It's going to snap a little bit. So we want to make sure it stays hot, and we're going to go straight into a pan, into a bowl, I mean. In this bowl, we need to season. So I like to kind of keep all the flavors together. So why not add a little bit of the sauce into our asparagus? Just a little bit. Just to give it a nice coat. A little butteriness in there. And then we're gonna finish off with some fresh salt. Alright. So when we plate, we want to make sure we plate hot food on hot plates. So one thing we do is we're going to pop this in the oven for 30 seconds. So just bring it, and then we can just leave it like this, and then just wait 30 seconds, let the plate get hot, and then we plate our food on a hot plate. So just all our components. We got all our components here. Now we're ready to build and plate our dish. Hot plate. Make sure everything you put on this plate is hot. So I'm gonna give this a quick stir and make sure all the heat is evenly incorporated. And I vision the mashed potatoes right here in the middle, right? I like height. You gotta remember what the star of the plate is. The star of the plate here is the chicken. We don't want to cover the chicken up with asparagus or the mashed potatoes. We want to make sure that the chicken is the first thing the customer sees, right? So we're gonna put our asparagus, which is nicely blanched, right here. And then we go our chicken that's been rested here, okay? Then we're gonna go with our pan sauce. And if by any chance we see a little bit of oil or whatever, and this is our chicken dish that we will be presenting. Enjoy.
Wow, nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a special lunch from our chef extraordinaire. Man, I wish I could take this. Even through the mask, I can smell how good this is. Look at this.
That's why they built like that.
Isn't that amazing? Holy,
Enjoy,
holy moly.